In 2009, a little-known game company of Rocksteady Studios had created a game that was regarded as the best Batman game of all time, as well as one of the best video games in general, with Batman Arkham Asylum, eventually receiving multiple game nominations and a Game of the Year edition in 2010. After the game was well received by both critics and gamers alike, they were certainly not expecting another installment for quite some time, especially not one so quickly. But as with Arkham Asylum, the trailers and reception from its release made it look like Rocksteady had made lightning strike twice with the second installment in the soon-to-be Arkham franchise. But it all started before the Asylum had come to fruition. While proper development of the game's story and concept and overall functions didn't start until later on in 2010, Rocksteady Studios had originally conceived the idea of a sequel storyline before Arkham Asylum had even finished its development. This is what ultimately led the developers, including a little known Easter egg in Arkham Asylum, where blowing up a certain specific wall in Warden Quincy Sharp's office would reveal a secret room which had concept art, portraits, and blueprints, all hinting at the creation of a new prison facility. This Easter egg wasn't even discovered until 2 years after Arkham Asylum was sold to stores. Nevertheless, the initial idea behind the story of what would eventually become Arkham City started all the way back in February of 2009, as multiple teams behind Arkham Asylum had moved over to the sequel, with the story and concept of the game taking the player out of the closed-in and claustrophobic setting and into the more open streets of Gotham City, while still retaining the same level of detail as seen in Arkham Asylum's open-ended world. However, they also wanted to include several iconic locations and landmarks that were commonly seen in Batman comics, films, and even cartoons, which would not only make the map a bit more distinct to any old generic open world map released in many games at the time, it would also make it a lot easier for the player to navigate around the map, using several of these landmarks as key locations so that they were to not get lost. Though with the technical limitations at the time, they knew right away certain aspects of Batman's mythos, like say the Batmobile for instance, was once again not going to be able to make an appearance in the sequel. Plus, the way the map was designed, it wouldn't be able to maneuver around the majority of the block terrain, and Batman's gliding feature would make a much more efficient means of traversal through the facility. At the time of writing the plot and concept of the game, Rocksteady's director, Sefton Hill, stated that the main goal of the game was to deliver, quote, Batman in Gotham. Kevin Conroy had even described it as really, really dark. Hell, he even compared it to the dark nature of the animated film Batman Return of the Joker, released in 2001.
There's a huge level of expectation. You want to create something that stands up with all of this other great fiction and Batman lore that's been told over the years.
It was such a great concept of Batman being victimized by all the characters. The potential for conflict was limitless.
I think the stakes are much higher here. Joker has a lot less to lose. He was sick in the head before, but now his body is sick as well.
I've just had a horrible thought. We could both actually die here tonight.
As part of the, quote, Batman and Gotham design philosophy was continuing throughout the development stage, the arsenal of moves and actions had expanded from the original arsenal that was created in Arkham Asylum, and the development team had come up with several new ideas for new combat and stealth moves, as well as new gadgets and abilities to be made for the sequel, as well as a new form of open world traversal, which would eventually form into the dive bomb mechanic, which we will later see in the final release of the game, with most of the gadgets and abilities being implemented from Arkham Asylum. For example, Batman's cryptographic sequence was upgraded from being a simple hacking device to having a communications monitoring system, and a decoding function, and the remote control Batarang being more maneuverable, as well as having speed controls and a reverse function. The biggest change in the design perspective of the several abilities and gadgets for Arkham City was probably the detective mode. In Arkham Asylum, the player could practically use this feature almost 90% of the time, hell, practically 100% of the time if they really wanted to. So to make the player use it more sparingly in Arkham City, the developers implemented certain enemies that could jam the signal and make you go completely blind while using this mode, which was one of the more well-received parts of the sequel.
Someone in this room is using a signal jammer. I'll need to neutralize him so that I can scan the room for targets.
I'm an intern!
For the primary antagonist of the game, Hugo Strange was selected. Due to his type of power and controlling mannerisms, it would be best in the context of the game's story for maintaining a prison facility like Arkham City, as well as his knowledge of Batman's true identity, serving as a potentially interesting plot thread on top of the A plot that was taking place in the game. Plans were also in the way for there to be multiple packs of DLC for the game, much like the original DLC packs for Arkham Asylum, like say the exclusive PS3 Joker challenge maps or the PC exclusive challenge maps that were downloadable content. However, aside from the DLC which they wanted to implement later on, all of the game's main elements were eventually completed with enough time to spare, and eventually, on the 18th of October 2011, Batman Arkham City was released on the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC.
So, you know my name. Good. Because I know everything about you. Your darkest secret. Your ultimate weakness. I know you are Bruce Wayne.
Unlike Arkham Asylum, there actually wasn't as much skepticism with Arkham City. After all, Rocksteady had proven themselves once that they could make a really solid Batman game. So there was a lot of hype surrounding this, and while there was a bit of still skepticism if they could make Lightning Strike twice, people were still really hyped, with the multiple trailers increasing the hype around this game before its release. Fans and regular gamers alike received this game insanely well, even more so than Arkham Asylum. Arkham City was given 9s and 10s from practically every gaming review site all around the world, including 9.5 out of 10 on IGN, a 9 out of 10 on GameSpot, and a 10 out of 10 on both the Xbox and PlayStation official magazines. Eventually, the game was, of course, nominated and awarded a Game of the Year, and was re-released with a Game of the Year edition on all platforms, as well as an Armored edition released on the Wii U, and much like Arkham Asylum before it, City was praised by both Batman fans and general gamers alike, with many people considering it not only the best superhero game made of all time, but also it's still considered, even to this day, the best in the entire Arkham franchise. And I have some other opinions. Just hear me out, just hear me out. Okay, if you by any chance have not played Arkham City after the 12 years it's been out, I'm very much surprised if you haven't yet, then skip this entire segment because it's going to be completely filled with spoilers. Set a few months after the intense night experience from Arkham Asylum, psychology professor Hugo Strange had previously approached Warden Quincy Sharp about a more stable prison facility capable of holding all of Gotham's criminal occupation. Months later, Arkham City was built on top of the old part of Gotham City, with all the prisoners from Arkham Asylum and Blackgate Prison relocated to the facility, with Strange in full control of it. During a press conference that Bruce Wayne is attending, trying to shut down the city. He's captured by Strange's Tiger Forces squadron and is thrown into the city with several other political prisoners that either have an association with Strange or have worked on the city itself. After Bruce Wayne suits up and saving Catwoman from Two-Face, he learns of a secret operation Hugo Strange has planned for the prisoners in Arkham City, and the Joker may be involved. As he goes to confront the Joker, he's subsequently knocked unconscious by Harley Quinn and is poisoned by the Joker's blood, having been infected by the massive dose of Titan formula he'd taken during the events of Arkham Asylum, and the infected blood is currently killing him. He's even shipped samples of his blood all to the hospitals and emergency rooms all the way around Gotham City, with anyone that has taken a sample of his blood inside them will be dead along with Batman and the Joker within the next day. It's now up to Batman to track down an antidote to cure him, the Joker, and the rest of Gotham City, as well as find out the true intention of Hugo Strange's secret project known as Protocol 10 before he finds out the hard way. Okay, first off, let's take a look at my main problem with this game, the story. The story for me is probably the weakest in the entire Arkham series. And I think I pretty much explained why I think it's weak, although briefly in my retrospective on Arkham Asylum. It just doesn't flow that well. I want to give you an example of one part in particular that I feel like is the complete opposite of what I loved about Arkham Asylum's story. In Arkham Asylum, there was virtually no point in the game, there was no segment, there was no building, there was not any part of the story that felt contrived, or it felt padded on, or it just felt like it was to extend the runtime of the game. I know you could technically make the argument of the penitentiary, and yeah, kind of, I do kind of agree that you could technically have Harley being like another part of the building, maybe the botanical gardens themselves. But honestly, I think it was to add a couple more things. I think it was to expand on the lore with the Amadeus Arkham thing that was happening, and to just provide a new set piece. And honestly, it was a pretty cool set piece. Overall, it still felt like it was needed. In Arkham City, there is a point in the game where you have to track down Mr. Freeze to find the cure. Simple, and it's easy to pull off, nothing too special, right? Well, it then sidetracks to another part. You have to go rescue Mr. Freeze in the museum that's run by Penguin and his goons. This completely sidetracks to another segment of the game that just, honestly, with the exception of one particular element, you could cut out and not miss a thing. Literally, you could literally have Mr. Freeze be in the GCPD lockup building and the whole story could still continue on after that. Now, I know you could technically make the argument that, oh, what about the ninja that breaks out of the containment glass in the museum? Well, honestly, aside from that, there's not much that is really important to the story. I get the idea that, like the penitentiary, it's to add another layer of the map. It's to add another segment. I just think there could have been a better way of making it part of the story and just have it be more relevant to the main plot, other than just having it be like a rescue mission. I don't know, this might be a nitpick, but for me, this just felt like a better example of padding out the runtime, and it just utterly seemed kind of a little bit pointless. But overall, honestly, that's not to say it's a terrible segment. It's a really fun and enjoyable segment. Hell, as a kid, I still really enjoyed it. But nowadays, I look at games more structurally, more on the story as well as the gameplay. And in my opinion, from a structural basis, the museum segment just doesn't hold up as well. The rest of it actually does. I think, honestly, every part of the segment has a unique importance to it. But for the museum, not so much. My second main problem with the story is particularly because, how do I put this? With Arkham Asylum, there was kind of like an A and B plot to the game. The main A plot was recapturing Joker and stopping him from running amok on the asylum, or even getting off island towards Gotham City. The B plot, however, was finding out why he escaped and why he got himself caught so easily, what his plan was with taking over the island. Eventually, we discover that he wants this Titan formula to take over Gotham City. In Arkham City, where Hugo Strange is planning to commence an operation known as Protocol 10, and Batman's main focus is to find out what it is and how he's going to stop it. However, later on in the game, we're given a secondary plot, a B plot, and the B plot is basically Batman has been poisoned by Joker's blood, which is infected by the Titan formula he took in Arkham Asylum. And the B plot centers around in trying to find a cure for both Batman, the Joker, and the rest of Gotham City before lives are lost. Both really good A and B plots. My main problem is the B plot kind of takes center stage, and the A plot kind of gets shoved to the side. It's weird. There's a point in the game the A plot and the B plot basically swap roles. It almost feels like Protocol 10 is now just an afterthought. Batman barely mentions it at all. There's not much build-up or development towards what Protocol 10 really is. There's not much mystery to it. There's not much anything to it. It's just that it's mentioned at the beginning, it's focused on a little bit, and then it's reversed with the B plot about finding the cure for Batman, Joker, and the rest of Gotham City, and the B plot is now the Protocol 10 shit. And it doesn't take center stage until nearing the very end. And even then, it's a very small segment of the game. The closer we get to the build-up to it is a couple voiceover roles from Hugo Strange saying that Protocol 10 will commence in X and Y type of hours and minutes.
Protocol 10 will commence in 10 hours. Protocol 10 will commence in 9 hours. Protocol 10 will commence in 2 hours. Protocol 10 will commence in 30 minutes.
Now don't get me wrong, this whole idea of Protocol 10 is a really cool idea. I think it has a lot of weight to it. Let me put it this way. When one of the first trailers popped up for Arkham City and they showed this shot in particular with Batman standing behind multiple helicopters just flying over him in slow motion, that's the kind of build-up we needed in Arkham City for this Protocol 10. Maybe there's a few segments in the game that, again, might have deviated from the main plot, but still would have built up the idea of Protocol 10 and shelved off a bit of the mystery of what it is. I legit think the main part of this game was supposed to be Protocol 10 and Hugo Strange being the main villain, but because people really love the Joker, they wanted to have him in. So they got Mark Hamill to come in to try and bring back the Joker in the main game. Now, with that being said, there are some elements of the story that I legit enjoy. I legit love the twist in it. The twist is one of the best aspects of this game's story. It might be the best twist in the entire Arkham series. The twist of the fake and the real Jokers. There are so many segments in the game where they're just little touches. There are tons of dialogue scenes you could practically just miss on your first playthrough, but when the flashback is revealed, you realize that they teased the entire twist from the very beginning. There are tons of dialogue segments and audio logs and images depicting that all is not what it seems with the Joker in this case. And when it's finally revealed, it's a legitimately really good twist. I love this, especially when the fact that the New Game Plus playthrough can actually have you really taking your time with the segments and trying to find out how and when and where they teased it. That part of it is legitimately really good. As for the rest of it though, it just didn't work for me. I've already said what I need to say, but again, it probably is the weakest in the entire series in terms of story-wise. Another thing which they added to the game was multiple side missions. Back in Arkham Asylum, there was really only one side mission. Two, technically, if you want to count the Amadeus Arkham thing as a separate one. But mainly it was the Riddler challenges. The Riddler trophies, the Riddler scannables, and the Chattering Teeth. Overall, it was a nice fun little side thing to do on top of the main story. It was quite fun and enjoyable. And admittedly, it was really fun to hear the Riddler get his ass kicked.
What? You did it? You must have cheated. There is no way you could have beaten me. Well, you asked for it, Batman. My final challenge for the whole of Gotham is just seconds away. What? Sirens. The police. You cheated, Batman. You couldn't have outsmarted me. Police, open up! No. They should open the door now! Now! to work out where I was. Do you hear me? I, Edward Nigma,
To really improve and add so much content to this game, Rocksteady decided to make up so many more side missions, with a total of 16 side missions, ranging from great to good to okay to just downright boring and tedious. In terms of the overall rating for the side missions, I chalk it up to 3 segments: the bad missions, the okay ones, and the best ones. I'll talk about the ones I don't particularly enjoy the most. The absolute worst ones, in my opinion, don't even count as side missions. They're just kind of like side... I don't even know how to describe them. They're just literally just ways to get new abilities and armor equipment. Both of these basically get you different types of gadgets. One only gets you an upgrade version of the Freeze Blast, aka the Freeze Cluster Grenade, and the other one gives you an upgrade for the Disruptor that lets you disrupt mines. Admittedly, decent upgrades, but honestly could easily be fitted in the new upgrade system which they included. So yeah, I'd pretty much give them both 2 out of 10s. There's not much to them. There really isn't. The Freeze Cluster Grenade side mission at least has a few henchmen you have to beat up, so there's that at least. The other one I'm not particularly a fan of, but I shouldn't really count as side missions, are the AR challenges. There's nothing to them. It's just a basic way of teaching you how the proper mechanics of the gliding and dive bomb and proper maneuvering of the new gliding system. Honestly, not too bad, but not very warranting of a side mission. But easily, probably the best of the bad easily goes to the random acts of violence. It's basically just segments where political prisoners are being terrorized by certain henchmen of certain divisions in the Arkham City prison facility. They are the exact same scenario every single time, and there's nothing unique about them at all. The one funny thing about them is probably just the dialogue the henchmen spews out before they start beating up on the political prisoner, which honestly sometimes can be quite funny. As for the okay side missions, they range from okay to just plain old good. There's not that many to them in the okay segment for me, just 3 in particular. The first one is finding and rescuing Nora Freeze from Joker's henchmen. Honestly, again, not too much to it, aside from this legitimately funny moment where there's 3 goons are playing rock, paper, scissors. But let's be honest, who has not stopped there and watched them try to play rock, paper, scissors? Who hasn't done that?
So how are we gonna decide who keeps the ice cube?
I wanna. It's my turn. You always get your turn.
How about rock, paper, scissors?
What? Can you even play that with 3 people?
Sure you can. Come on, let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
All paper. What are the odds?
Do I look like I went to school? 1, 2, 3. Gun beats paper. No, gun doesn't beat paper. Stick to the rules.
1, 2, 3.
What the hell is that? Dynamite.
But I love it. Again.
There's one particular side mission which I have mixed feelings about, and I'll get to that when I get to the exploration of the main map later on, so I'll leave that till last. The next one in particular is the Night Watcher side mission. Honestly, it's not a bad mission in general. It builds up a lot of good mystery, and overall it has a bit of a mysterious ending to it, which I kind of like. But again, there's not much to it. Admittedly though, I do like the fact that you can spot him in certain segments after completing particular parts of the main story. In fact, I actually like the fact that he's actually you actually can see him at the beginning of the game when you get attacked by Penguin and his goons. I quite like that. Overall, I give both the Nora Freeze and the Azrael segments general 6 out of 10s. They're okay, just nothing too special. However, when it comes to the main ones that I really do enjoy, go as follows: Bane, Deadshot, Hush, Mad Hatter, and Zsasz. First off is probably the weakest of the best, Bane. Aside from the fact that I do like the reappearance of Bane, and the fact that he's voiced by a different actor, Fred Tatasciore? I don't know, the guy who voices the Hulk in multiple cartoons. He essentially explains to Batman that Joker shipped up an entire truckload of Titan containers off the island before Batman had stopped it. In total, it's about 12 containers. Batman takes 6, Bane takes 6, and they both meet up at the Cranko toy factory. But, in a bizarre twist, after destroying all the containers and meeting back up with Bane in the building, they're quickly attacked by a particular henchman. After this, Batman figures out that Bane had stolen the rest of the Titan formula and tried to keep him for himself. Thinking quickly on his feet, Batman locks Bane in a cage and destroys the remaining Titan containers. There's nothing really particular big about this one. Admittedly, some of the dialogue between the henchmen talking about the Titan containers themselves are pretty cool. And I actually do like the similar way of beating up the henchmen, in particular the fact that it can change depending on which part of the story you're playing afterwards. If you're playing in the main storyline, or particularly in the parts of Protocol 10, you get attacked by Tiger Guards. You get attacked by Tiger Guards. If it's sometime after the main story, you actually get attacked by Joker's henchmen. Again, nice little twist, but overall has nothing much to it. It's probably the weakest of the best, in my opinion. The next one, in my opinion, and probably the one afterward, have sort of like the opposite problems to each other. The Deadshot side mission. Now, I will admit, the build-up and mystery and the overall evidence collecting segment of this side mission is done brilliantly. The multiple different ways you can try and find out how to track him down and finally defeat Deadshot is legitimately well done. And I do like the fact that there is no, like, certain particular way to make these segments happen. They just happen randomly in the main story. I do like that. Upon finding a secret location where he's stashing up his equipment, and by the way, did anyone else think this was a fucking lightsaber? You eventually find out that Deadshot has 3 more victims on his hit list. Jack Ryder, Bruce Wayne, and Batman. After rescuing Ryder, it's now time for the Deadshot boss fight. It's over in like 5 minutes, if that. Yeah, in my opinion, this is probably one of the weaker boss fights in the entire Arkham series. Hell, it's not even a boss fight, it's just a quick stealth segment. The guy doesn't even have a health bar. If anything, I think that actually has the opposite problem of the Deadshot boss fight and side mission in Arkham Origins. How the build-up is not as strong in Arkham Origins, but the boss fight is actually particularly quite interesting. If we were to combine the build-up of Arkham City and the boss fight of Arkham Origins, I think we would have had a perfect side mission for Deadshot, honestly. Overall, it's not bad, but it's nothing too great either. I honestly give it a 7 out of 10. The Hush side mission, however, actually does have a better ending, but not by much. The Hush boss fight has a multi-layer build-up and mystery towards this identity thief they keep talking about. I love the ways they talk about this killer like he's this mysterious Jack the Ripper type of character. And apparently a lot of the people that see this particular identity thief say that it's apparently Bruce Wayne. Once again, like the Deadshot boss fights, the segments are split into three different victims. However, unlike the Deadshot side mission where it's very random and it'll just go off randomly in the game, this one you can actually find out on your own. True, you can pretty much find the first victim on the side mission instantly because it's marked on the map, obviously. But the other two are found just through your general vicinity, just through your general observation of the map itself. And you need to look pretty hard in order to find them. The ending as well is actually pretty well done. It builds up a lot of good mystery, and it would definitely hint at a good payoff for the next game Rocksteady had in the lineup for the Arkham series. And we all know how that turned out, didn't we? Overall, though, this side mission is a lot of fun. I think it's got great mystery, it has good build-up, and ultimately has a decent payoff. I definitely give it an 8 out of 10. Alright, we're finally on. Let's talk about the... Oh, fuck. Damn, I have to get more of these things. Let's talk about something else while I get these things. The final 2 side missions are probably my favorites in the entire game. Just barely hitting the best one for me is the Mad Hatter side mission. Honestly, this is just a really fun fight because of the visual style. You are literally falling down a massive, like, vine tunnel, and the platform is literally a clock. I legit love this set piece. It's legitimately stunning to watch. The fight itself is nothing to go by. It's just basically fighting mind-controlled henchmen inside Batman's head while trying to fight trying to punch the Mad Hatter enough until he's knocked unconscious. And good God, the performance from the Mad Hatter's voice actor is honestly freaking superb. Honestly, he brings the type of like mysterious but also like clever and very like rich type of acting that the original animated series voice actor brought to the character as well. It ends pretty quickly, and admittedly, it's kind of too short. I honestly think, out of all the Mad Hatter side missions, Arkham Origins is probably the best in my opinion. But overall, this is just a really well done side mission in my opinion, just from the visual standpoint alone. I definitely give it an 8 out of 10. I'd probably say it's better than the Hush and Deadshot boss side missions. But absolutely the best side mission this game ever made was the Zsasz side mission. Where the hell do I begin with this one? Victor Zsasz is basically taking control of all the phone lines in all of Arkham City, and once in a while, randomly throughout the game, the phone lines will just start ringing. As soon as you answer it, you have to rush all the way to another phone line that's calling for you in another part of the city. And if you don't get there within the correct preceded amount of time, Zsasz kills a hostage. Admittedly, that part is nothing special, but it's what happens after as soon as you pick up the phone that's really well done. You have to track down Zsasz's specific location in Arkham City via the phone lines themselves by constantly tracking down the radar. But as you're doing this, he starts explaining his backstory, how he became to be the villain he is today. This, in my opinion, is so good that honestly I could listen to him constantly tell us his backstory for the entirety of the side mission. Full disclosure, I legit listened to one of his his full backstory completely at one point while playing this game. I didn't capture the whole thing in the recording, sadly, but honestly, it's a damn good part, and it's legitimately interesting. This is how you develop a character really well. And honestly, the voice actor that portrays Zsasz in this game does a really damn good performance, explaining his backstory. It has really great build-up. I know a lot of people are put off by this side mission because the ending overall and actually capturing Zsasz isn't anything to go by, but honestly, what would you expect from someone like Zsasz? He's not a particularly big threat or anything like that. He's just a guy that cooks himself. So, not really too intense or too big of a fight, honestly. Honestly, it's the build-up and the backstory we hear from Zsasz that drives this side mission and truly elevates it to being, in my opinion, the best in the entire game. I highly recommend you actually play Arkham City just for this side mission alone. It's legit interesting. This is an easy 9 out of 10 side mission for me. I highly recommend you play it. Okay, now that I have a few of them, let's finally talk about... fuck. Alright, let's get a few more. Well, this will take a while. Gameplay-wise? Let's talk about gameplay. Many of the gameplay elements of the combat, stealth, traversal, and etc. have been vastly improved and expanded upon in this next outing. Combat has seen a vast improvement as well since Arkham Asylum. For example, more moves and ultra cape stun to knock down opponents, as well as a new beatdown mechanic and to combat tougher enemies. More takedown moves, such as the returning special takedown move from Arkham Asylum, the unfortunate removal of the enemy throwing mechanic, which I kind of really missed, the Bat Swarm, which basically stuns and disorients a large group of enemies, Disarm and Destroy, which basically destroys an opponent's weapon via baseball bats, steel pipes, shields, stun batons, and guns. And of course the Ultra Batarang takedown, which is so goddamn broken, I'm surprised it was still in the entire series. There's also another element that Arkham City vastly improves upon in some cases that Arkham Asylum was kind of falling short upon, honestly, depending on what you were looking for. I mentioned in my Arkham Asylum retrospective that the boss fights in particularly were hit and miss, again, depending on what you were looking for. I made it clear that they were good set pieces. Well, this is immediately where Arkham City truly stands out from the crowd. Arkham City, in a lot of people's opinion, had some of the best boss fights in the entire series. So, and much like Arkham Asylum, I'm going to go through them individually and through chronological order. So let's take a look at the first big boss fight you get with Solomon Grundy.
Grundy must hurt the bat!
Grundy is a big-ass brawler, much like Bane from Arkham Asylum, but there's a better gameplay mechanic involved. Unlike Bane, which you have to basically use a batarang to knock him unconscious and take down one of his energy tubes, which is completely different to Solomon Grundy, you instead have to electrocute him. There are these turbines on the floor which have to use explosive gel in order to destroy. Grundy's essentially got like swinging maces on chains that he basically swings around the arena to knock you down. He'll also bash them against the floor to create some kind of electrical shockwave, which you also have to avoid. and these weird slug things? Someone actually comment on this. What the fuck are they supposed to be? But either way, do this enough times and you'll eventually knock him down and essentially kill him. Yeah, is it really weird that Batman killed a zombie? Is it really killing if he's already been dead? I don't know. Either way, this boss fight is a lot of fun and really just a really cool set piece as well, like I said before. But it's not quite as inventive as, in my opinion, the best boss fight in the entire game. You could fight me on this one. The more mystical and outer-worldly experience, with Ra's al Ghul, the Demon's Head.
You disappoint me, detective.
Ra's al Ghul essentially has two set pieces to this boss fight, actually. This is a more Scarecrow world traversal type arena, which you have to complete in order to get to the boss fight itself. But once you do that, you then go to the initial boss fight. It's one of the more varied of the boss fights in this entire series. There are several stages to Ra's al Ghul's boss fight in particular. I really love the part where all these like mysterious mystical bodies like surround you and try to kill you. You have to tap the counter button rapidly. It really put me mashing the button down to the test. Then you have to fight a giant version of himself and shoot him with the remote electrical charge in order to knock him down. Then you have to quick counter him from several sword strikes. Do this enough times and you'll eventually get to a point where you're back in the real world essentially, which is a new gameplay mechanic with the remote control Batarang. Overall, it is in my opinion the best boss fight this game ever put for the task for me, and in my opinion, it's probably one of my personal favorites, definitely in my top 5. It's visually interesting, the dialogue is really cool, the gameplay is a lot of fun, there's a lot of variety in the moves to use, it gets more and more challenging every time I play it, and in my opinion, it is my favorite boss fight in this entire game. And I know I'm going to have a lot of opinions when I discuss the next one. The boss with the coldest of all hearts Batman has ever faced, Mr. Freeze.
I will turn your blood to ice.
Before I get started on my personal opinion, I want to take a gander at what everybody else sees this boss fight as. They see it as the best in the series. They see it as the one that Rocksteady basically knocked out of the park and couldn't top even if they tried. There is a lot of variety in this boss fight. It has so much visually interesting moments. And the one mechanic that Mr. Freeze has above all the other villains is that he adapts to all your moves. Perform a great takedown on him, he'll adapt to that by freezing all the grades. Perform a takedown from a window or an explosive wall, he'll basically freeze the other walls in the vicinity and stop you from doing that again. And yes, this is a really good boss fight and really inventive and has a lot of unique opportunities to use the stealth mechanics against him. However, in my personal opinion, it is not the best. It's not even in my top 5. It is definitely a contender in top 10 and definitely warrants it. But in my opinion, it doesn't really hold a candle to the other ones in my top 5. I personally think ones like the Scarecrow World section, the Ra's al Ghul boss fight from Arkham City, and a few others from Arkham Origins are still overall much better than this one in my opinion. That's not to say I hate this boss fight at all. If anything, I absolutely love this boss fight. It's just, in my opinion, much like this game itself, is a bit overrated by the community in my opinion. I feel like a lot of people keep loving this to death, and yeah, I enjoy it too, but not to the same length that other people do. I certainly understand where they're coming from. It definitely is very unique in terms of all the other boss fights on the game and in the entire game series, but it's, again, not my favorite. I still enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but again, and just a personal preference, I give this one an easily 8 out of 10, whereas I would easily give the Grundy fight an 8 out of 10, and I'd easily give the Ra's al Ghul fight a 9 out of 10. The only difference with the Ra's al Ghul fight not being a 10 out of 10 is that I could have used a few more segments in the boss fight itself. Maybe add a bit more variety to the combat moves and stuff, but overall, it is still my favorite, and this one is sadly out of the main 4 ones you're going to be playing through this game, it is, unfortunately in my opinion, still at number 4. However, that is coming from a game that has 4 boss fights, essentially all really good. If you disagree with me, which you probably will, then yeah, more power to you. I completely understand why people can really enjoy this game. The variety, the intelligence behind this boss fight in particular, the mechanics are really fun, and the fact that it can get pretty hard at times, especially on New Game Plus, it is still very challenging and fun to do. Overall though, I just enjoy it fine. It's nothing too special. The final boss fight I want to talk about real quick is the Clayface boss fight at the end of the game.
It was the performance of a lifetime!
Honestly, this is just a really fun and inventive boss fight. I really love this setting. You're in a Monarch Theater with explosions in the corners of the room. You've got the Joker spectating it. You've got a really cool looking design for the villain. And in my opinion, it's got a lot of variety in how he can attack you and how you can stop him. You constantly have to quick fire the freeze blast gadget in order to freeze him up and slow him down. And you can direct him into those explosives in the corners of the room. And it eventually evolves into two really cool segments. One, it goes straight down to Ra's al Ghul's secret lair under Arkham City, where Clayface essentially sends his clay minions, I guess, to attack you. And this leads to, again, the second best part, or in my opinion, the best part about this boss fight, Batman wielding a sword. I love this. This image is just fucking awesome. Why doesn't he do this more often? But yeah, in my opinion, that's what makes this boss fight stand out. The Batman sword fighting mechanic in the later part of the gameplay. It's just a lot of fun. The Mr. Freeze boss fight might be better than this one just because there's not a lot to it, but I still really enjoy this boss fight for how just insanely fun it is. And yeah, how badass it is seeing Batman wield a sword for a change. I'd easily give this one an 8 out of 10 again. So yeah, the boss fights are one of the best parts about this game, and they're literally a step up from Arkham Asylum's boss fights. Not that I hated them, I just think there was just a lot of divisiveness to them. It just depended on what you're looking for, like I said. But overall, the boss fights, as a total, I'd easily give them a 9 out of 10. They are almost pitch perfect in my opinion. Whew, okay, I think I finally got enough of these goddamn things. Can I please talk about this side mission? Are we sure? Fucking Christ. Okay, the Enigma Conundrum. The very last side mission I have to talk about with this game, and probably the last one you will ever do in this goddamn game, because I'm gonna be honest with you, collecting these trophies is bullshit. They were fine in Arkham Asylum because most of them were actually pretty cool Easter eggs, and most of them actually gave you character bios, character trophies, and actually challenge maps, which were pretty cool. There were 240 in Arkham Asylum. Honestly, very doable. The only parts I really didn't like were the Riddler, were the chattering teeth. They were bullshit to find, and it sucked trying to look for them in every frickin' corner. But in my opinion, Arkham City had the worst Riddler side missions. I'll give credit, the actual tests weren't that bad. They had pretty cool unique puzzles. I specifically remember playing the demo and getting to play this one decently well put out side mission that was honestly pretty cool to play. But aside from that, collecting all these trophies, all these riddles, and all the chattering teeth, and all the balloons, and all these goddamn security cameras, oh yeah, they're a thing actually. All the penguins, I'm not kidding on that one. All these weird demon head things in Wonder City, but all this is so much bullshit. I legit almost threw a stone at the wall after finishing this for the first time. It took me that long. It took me weeks to try and track them down. I almost gave up, but I didn't. I got all these frickin' things, I cleared the map, and I got them all, and I could finally beat the shit out of this goddamn maniac, once and for all.
Question. What do you call someone who prevented a guard from turning into minced meat? Answer. Not you, Batman.
Now, in all honesty, I will give credit, Wally Wingett does a pretty good job at portraying the character of the Riddler. Admittedly, he's not as good as John Glover's performance in the animated series, maybe a little bit better than Robert Englund's performance in the 2004 cartoon, though to be fair, the fact that he can actually compete with Freddy Krueger himself is pretty goddamn amazing. But goddamn, did he succeed in making me want to punch this character? And I know a lot of people are gonna say, Arkham Origins doesn't have that much variety in them, and Arkham Knight has them fucking everywhere. Well, that's only if you actually look at the map. If you actually check how many there are on Google, or pretty much if you actually check in the actual side mission tab in the actual game itself, you'll realize that there are only approximately 243. How many are there in Arkham City? 440. And by the way, that's counting the Catwoman DLC that adds 40 more of these goddamn things. And you know what the worst part is about those 40 more? Batman can't actually pick them up. They're for Catwoman only. That is bullshit. And some of them actually require Batman's help in order to gain access to them. Again, bullshit. But I clearly emphasize how much I really don't like this side mission. It's so paralyzing because The side mission itself isn't that bad when you're actually playing it. If you're playing it on New Game Plus and have collected all the necessary trophies and riddles and breakables you have in order to play the entire thing without interruption, then it's fine. It's easily a 7 out of 10. It's a fine side mission. But the monotony of collecting all these fucking things is so goddamn insanely frustrating. I hate the side mission. I legit hate it. And also, by the way, how is it that Arkham Knight makes it look like there are more on the map than there are actually in that game? Whereas not many people are concerned the fact that the map in Arkham City makes it look like there are so many more than there actually are, when the Arkham City map actually makes it look like there are more than the 440 total in the entire game. I'm dead serious. It actually keeps making me think, why does it look like there are actually more than there are in the damn game? I so goddamn hate this side mission. I legit hate it whenever I have to play this one. The thing is, though, I don't know if this is a negative. A lot of people just, like, put this aside, to put this side mission to the side a bit and talk about their frustrations, but also talk about their enjoyment of it. Like, the destination justifies the journey to get there. And I don't know about that. It easily probably is one of the worst, but it is, again, one of the most enjoyable. And one of the most frustrating, but one of the most tedious and monotonous side missions of the entire series. But again, it's also one of the most rewarding, in a way. It's kind of a conflicting side mission for opinions. So I honestly had to give it a middle ground for that and give it a 5 out of 10. Half of it is good and half of it is bullshit. But again, the half of this bullshit is removed when you play the New Game Plus one. So I'm kind of stuck on what to actually say my opinion is.
What's wrong? Has your primitive brain given up and accepted that I, the Riddler, am better than you?
There are a few final things I want to talk about this game that were added upon from Arkham Asylum, that being the DLC. Let's start with the one that was advertised the most in the marketing, the Catwoman DLC. If you bought the Game of the Year edition or bought it exclusively as a DLC, you would get a DLC storyline for Catwoman. There are 4 story segments particularly related to her in the gameplay, as well as using her in the challenge maps as well. And you could also replay these story segments separately in the main menu of the game. All 4 of these segments are pretty fun and enjoyable, but there's nothing much to them. It just explains what Catwoman is technically doing throughout the entirety of Arkham City, while Batman is doing his own thing trying to track down the main story elements.
No!
Sorry, Harv. This really isn't your night, is it? Now tell me where you've hidden the rest of my stuff, or I'll even out the other side of your face.
Overall, her gameplay is a lot of fun. The way she traverses the Arkham City is pretty fun too. The stealth segments are easily probably the weakest part about her, because I don't think she can do well with stealth, in my personal opinion. Let's just say, getting around the gargoyles and vantage points aren't really as fun as enjoyable as I think Rocksteady wanted them to be. I ended up dying a lot on the challenge maps, which is why you don't really see that many challenge maps with me playing as her. However, in my opinion, the best addition to the DLC is easily the costumes. The new outfits that could be worn by Batman, Catwoman, Robin, and Nightwing are all really fun. And in my opinion, I'll go through each of them and just give my personal ranking and just short segments of what I think of them overall. It's a default costume, which I personally think is pretty decent, but not as enjoyable to look at as the Arkham Asylum skin, or pretty much the Arkham Origin skin in my opinion. It's easily probably the weakest default costume Batman's ever had in the entire Arkham series, but overall it's still a really cool suit to look at. 7 out of 10. Absolute perfection how they nailed the aesthetic of the animated series on this skin, and in my opinion it blends well with the look and style of this universe. It is easily a 10 out of 10. A nice little representation from the comic book version, and it definitely does stay true to the original design from Frank Miller. Though I gotta ask, it's got a bit of a weird chin design. I'm not really sure about that. Overall, 7 out of 10. It's decent. It's alright, it's nothing too special, there's not much about it. I like the unique bat symbol and the white belt, that's pretty neat. But honestly, much of the costume from the comic book it's based on, it's honestly on the bland side. 5 out of 10. Honestly, same issue I have, it's just kind of on the bland side. Well, again, I like the unique bat symbol, the belt's not that bad. Kind of reminds me of what Arkham Origin would do with a utility belt for its default costume. But again, there's nothing much to it. I don't even know what the comic book this one is based off of. Honestly, again, 5 out of 10. Okay, Absolute perfection. The Batman Beyond suit is amazing. This one is just a complete representation of the original cartoon version. I love the design. I fucking loved what it looked like in the cartoon. And in my opinion, this is far superior to the Arkham Knight costume. You can fight me on this one, but I will take this one over the Arkham Knight one any day. 10 out of fucking 10. The 70s look is actually pretty decent. I do like the light blue they used. And by God, does that yellow stand out from the rest of the colors. It just very looks like the comic book version come to life. It is definitely a really good representation. Definitely a solid 8 out of 10. The Batman Incorporated one is alright. It's nothing, again, nothing too fancy. I do like the darker shade of grey. And I do like the utility belt and the bat symbol, it's kind of unique. And I like the, older look of the facial model, that's pretty cool. Although, I gotta ask, one quick question. What the fuck is up with the cod piece? Seriously, was this actually in the original comic book version? Because if it is, I have so many questions about this character model. Did somebody literally think there's gonna be a comic book somewhere where every comic book villain in Gotham City is gonna a one-way trying to kick Batman in the balls? Either way, this one, aside from that weird indiscretion of the cod piece, it's still a fun costume. 7 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie, this one's just kind of a bit overrated for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the yellow parts about it. I especially love that weird pattern on the chest plate. That's pretty cool. That's not that bad. And the rubber look of it kind of does make it look like it's an actual, Green Lantern-like suit. I do like the addition of the fact that there is the yellow lantern ring on the actual glove. That's pretty cool. But honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I actually prefer the other times Batman was part of the Lantern Corps. I prefer the White Lantern one, and the Black Lantern, and the Green Lantern looks, especially over this one. I'm not gonna lie, it fits Superman, don't get me wrong, in the Injustice comics, but Batman, I don't know, this is nothing too special for me. It's just a bit overrated for me. 6 out of 10. It's alright. Catwoman's default costume is pretty damn cool. I like the leather look. I think it pretty much fits her personality really well. It's a nice little default costume. I especially love the red goggles. Those are pretty cool too. And it is definitely having a lot more of that show don't tell kind of thing, if you get what I mean. Once again, much like the animated series version of Batman, it is pretty much perfection. It is pretty much a perfect one-to-one recreation from the animated series. Absolutely 10 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie, I've never been a fan of this one. I mean, the purple's alright. I do kind of like purple for Catwoman overall, and the gloves are pretty neat. Although, I don't get what the bracelets are for specifically. They just kind of look like those weird silver bracelets women like to wear for fashion. And particularly, what the fuck is up with the ears? They look so stupid. 3 out of 10. Roman's default costume was pretty decent. I like the bulky armor look, although I'm not a fan of the more muted colors. I actually would have preferred the red a bit more striking. But overall, I do like the hood. But it definitely works in this version. And I especially like it because he's bald under that hood, apparently. But overall, it's not a bad default design. Once again, watch how the other animated series looks. It's pretty much a pitch-perfect design. Again, the colors are a tad muted compared to how he's supposed to look, but overall, it's a pitch-perfect redesign and an absolute solid version of the animated series look. Instantly a 9 out of 10. Now, this one, Red Roman is, in my opinion, probably his best look in Arkham City. In my opinion, it balances the striking look of a realistic touch with the very accurate comic book aesthetic. I especially like the mask they use, and I do like the belt and the symbol for it. It's pretty cool. Overall, a nice solid one. 9 out of 10. Nightwing's default costume was pretty good. I like the armored look. I especially like the blue. It's very striking. I like the mask overall. But overall, it's kind of bland. It's alright. 6 out of 10. Once again, a very accurate representation of the animated series, or in this case, the New Adventure series animated version of the character. It definitely looks very striking, much more than his default costume. I really love the attention to detail with the facial model and the mask and everything like that. The only thing that is kind of missing from this one, and it's a real big shame, honestly for me personally, is that I know it was just very 90s, but I missed the mullet. I would have liked it if they kept the mullet. Like, I know it's stupid and a lot of people didn't really gravitate towards it, but you know what? I liked it. It was pretty cool. It's kind of like what I associate Nightwing to have, at least in the animated series version. I really do like it. So, that's the only nitpick I have with it, but overall, it's a fantastic look for him. Easily a 9 out of 10. So overall, I do necessarily think all the outfits and alternative costumes are pretty cool. All of them at least have something going for them as something that stand out from the rest. Again, aside from a few ones like the Year 1 and Earth 2 Batman suits, they're alright, but there's just nothing too very striking about them. Overall though, they're really cool. It's a nice little addition to DLC. So with that being said, Has this replay and re-review of Arkham City changed my opinion on it whatsoever? Well, kind of. I do still stand by the fact that it is very much overrated, and it is still not my favorite at all. It is still a necessary, really enjoyable Arkham game, but it is not the best in my opinion, and not my personal favorite. It is still... I still debate whether or not it is better or weaker than Arkham Knight. I'm still debating whether or not in my head. Maybe when I finally get around to doing a review on Arkham Knight and Arkham Origins, I'll finally have a definitive ranking of all 4 of the main Arkham games. But overall, this is very much a really enjoyable sequel to a very successful starting game, to a very successful game company. I think overall, gameplay, traversal, boss fights, side missions, and extra content, it's a vast improvement. However, there are still a few things that hold it back, particularly with the story aspects. It is probably the weakest story, in my opinion, of the entire 4 Arkham series. I think it is severely flawed in many instances in the plot threads, and the A and B plots particularly taking center stage, which, honestly, it downgrades it from being, you can say, something like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 for a lot of people, to what I consider it to be a good, solid 7 out of 10. It is definitely an enjoyable experience. However, I am going to be that particular arsehole and say it is not the best, and it is not my personal favorite. Again, with that being said, I do still recommend it. It is definitely a welcome sequel. It definitely improves upon a lot of the things that Arkham Asylum set the center stage for. If you have not played this yet, then I can honestly ask, what the hell are you still doing here? Go play this bloody game. It's still a really fun ride. All the main content in the story, the side content with the missions, the extra challenge maps, the DLC, both the costumes and the main storylines with Catwoman's DLC, they are enjoyable and thoroughly entertaining. I do still recommend this game all throughout. And with that being said, no matter what I think about this game, I still think this is a worthwhile sequel to a fantastic experience of a Batman game. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with everyone you know, and comment down below what you want me to take a look at next on the channel, and voice your opinion on this game overall, and what you think of my opinion on it. Please feel free to voice your opinion on what I thought. I am completely open to criticism. I'm not one of those people that will shun it away. However, with that being said, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell icon if you haven't already to keep up to date on all the latest retro content I release on the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you again in the next video.